Oh, just don't think I got the right head. Hey everybody, welcome back. Hope you're doing okay. I have just a little bit of coffee left, so things are looking a bit dire here, but we'll battle on. Well, I'm going to cover how I set up a Rust project for Advent of Code. Now, if you haven't heard about Advent of Code, it is the coding challenge that begins on the 1st of December. And it's been running at this point for 10 years. And historically, the puzzles of which you get 2 each day have run over 25 days. But this year, due to the sheer amount of behind the scenes work that goes into putting on Advent of Code, Eric Wazzle has decided to reduce the number of days down to 12. And who can blame him? The man deserves to have a decent Christmas. You know what I'm saying? I had a go at Advent of Code 2015 a couple of years ago, and I used the puzzles as a way of learning Rust, and it was my first exposure to the language, and I really enjoyed using it. But I only got 6 days into the challenge before things got too tricky for me, and I haven't really done any Rust in the last couple of years, so it's going to be interesting to see how I get on in December. Now, it's only fair to say at this point that I'm very new to Rust, and these videos are going to be super basic. I'll show you how I do things, but I'm convinced there's better or alternative ways of doing the same stuff. So please, if you have any advice, do leave it in the comments below. It will be much appreciated. And if you are looking for more advanced Rust tutorials, then I'd very much recommend checking out Chris Biscardi. I'll leave a link to his channel below. He has a nicer voice and much better headwear than I do. In fact, I'm going to get a Chris Biscardi cap. That's what I'm going to do. So I'll be using Cargo, which is the Rust package manager, to create a package for each day of Advent of Code. I'll also use Cargo to run the tests and use it to run the code that solves the puzzles. Now, a workspace is defined as a collection of one or more packages which are called workspace members. And there are sections in both the Rust book and the Cargo reference which are linked to in the description below. But essentially, as I understand it, a workspace is a mechanism for organizing your project code. And perhaps for Advent of Code, using a workspace might be considered overkill. But I know no better, so, if you have an opinion on that, let me know in the comments below. So let's set up a project for Advent of Code 2016. It's a year I haven't touched at all, and then in subsequent videos I can have a go at the puzzles as a warm-up exercise for Advent of Code 2025. Now I have to say, before I knew how easy it was to create a workspace, I assumed that there would be a cargo command to do it for me, but there isn't. There's an open issue in GitHub about it where there's some discussions about the value of adding such a feature. But when you realize that essentially it's just creating a single file, you realize how easy it is. Now you can, of course, use cargo init or cargo new to create a package and then modify that so it becomes a workspace. So there's 2 ways of doing it, and I'm going to show you both. I'll show you the manual way first, and then show you how to create a package and turn that into a workspace. That is not the best that I've made today. So let's have a look at the documentation for the virtual workspace in the cargo book. And we can see here that it is simply a single file. I don't know about you, but I can never get my glasses clean. Probably because I use my t-shirt. Okay, let's start that again. So let's start by having a quick look at the cargo book and the section on virtual workspaces. And we can see here that it really is just as simple as creating a cargo or creating a project directory and then a cargo.toml file within it, and then having these 3 lines of code in there. So let's do that. Let's create a AOC-2016 directory and then cd into it. And then we'll touch cargo.toml. Now for these videos, I'm going to be using Z. It has Vim key bindings, and I'm just trying it out as a fun thing for these videos. So let's open this directory up in Z and have a look at our empty cargo.toml file. The first thing we need to do here is to create a workspace section, and then we need to add a resolver version, and this relates to the edition of Rust that you're using. So if you're using edition 2024 like I am, you'll use 3. If you're using 2021, you'll use 2, and presumably if you're using any version before that, you'd use 1. Let me know if I got that right or wrong. But yeah, I'm going to put in resolver 3, and then I'm going to use a glob pattern for specifying my workspace members. So each day I'm going to create a new package, and each package is going to contain a binary crate as opposed to a library crate. And each package is going to be named like day 01 and then day 02. So if I create a wildcard glob pattern here, I think that's everything I need. Now, if I open up a terminal, I can git init to create a Git repository, and then I will create a git ignore file. And the reason that I'm going to create a git ignore file is so that I can ignore some stuff. So I'm going to ignore target. My understanding is that the packages I'm creating, being binary crates, will compile to a single binary file which ends up in the target directory. And I don't want to be committing those into source control. So I'm going to ignore the target directory, and I'm also going to ignore the input, the puzzle input, which I'm going to be copying from the Advent of Code website into my code base each day, but I don't want to commit it. There's a little section in the Advent of Code about page which asks people who are doing Advent of Code not to copy the Advent of Code into their source control. So yeah, I'm going to ignore /target, and I'm going to ignore all of the input.txt files wherever they exist. So with that, I think I can cargo init, or even cargo init day 01, and that will create me a cargo binary package within my virtual workspace, which has a cargo.toml file and a source directory with a main.rs in it. So far so good. So that's the manual way of setting things up. Let's have a look at how we create a package and then modifying that package and turning it into a workspace. Right, so I've removed that Advent of Code 2016 directory that I created a moment ago. Let's try that again. So I've removed that AOC 2016 directory so that I can now create a package with cargo in it, AOC 2016. Now, if we cd into that directory, what what we should see is a bunch of files similar to what we ended up with last time. We've got the source directory there, which we can get rid of because we're not going to have any source code in our virtual workspace. It's all going to be in the packages that we create each day. And then if we open this up in Z, we'll see that the TOML file is populated and it has, so typically what you'd see for a package, not a workspace. So what we can do is we can get rid of all of this and just create what we had before. So workspace and then resolver and our members, which again is a glob pattern day asterisk. So that's pretty much what we had before. The only other thing I think I need to do is add the input file into the ignore file, which is created automatically for us. There is an option with cargo init and cargo add. You can specify --vcs none if you don't want to create a Git repository with your workspace or package. And also you can specify other types of source control. So it'll create like, yeah, whatever other source control you're using. So yeah, I think that's it. Now, if I go to the terminal, I will be able to run cargo init day 01, and that will create me the cargo.toml for my day 1 and source directory. And we should be able to run with the --bin flag to specify day 01. And we should see hello world if everything's working, which it is. Yes. So there we go. 2 ways of setting up a virtual workspace with a single binary crate inside a package for Advent of Code. Now, I think in the next video, I will show you how I structure each main.rs file. But yeah, I think that's enough for this video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next. Bye.